So I'm excited to be here. So as Ethan said, my name's Zach. I'm the founder of Ignite Agency Training. So I work with insurance agents to help them train their team. As I've spent the last several years working with agents and helping them grow their business, I just saw an opportunity for them to outsource some of the training they do. Business owners, a lot of times, struggle with how to effectively train their team, whether it's a knowledge gap. What do I need to train my team on? What do they need in the moment? A lot of people don't like training. There's a lack of interest. They just don't like doing it. They didn't start a business to train a bunch of employees. They like to sell, they like to market, they like to meet with customers. They don't like to train, so there's not a lot of interest. The last aspect is time. As you grow a business, as you scale, your time gets spread further and further apart, and so it becomes harder to find the time to train. And so if you have those three things, it creates a gap. Your results aren't where you need to be. So that was the opportunity that I saw that led me to found my company. And so tonight, I'm going to really be talking about how I have focused my marketing strategy as a startup and kind of what my future vision is. And I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite entrepreneurs, somebody that I think everybody should follow in the entrepreneurial space. His name's Alex Hormozi. Has anybody heard of Alex Hormozi? Awesome. So I love Alex, and so if you follow his content, there's going to be a lot of repeat. I'm going to basically serve as a case study for his content and how it's worked for me and kind of share that with you all. He does a much better job, so follow Alex and check out his content. So I'm going to cover a few things. First is simply define what is lead generation, okay? I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. I'm going to talk about the avatar, right? I'm going to talk about what an avatar is, why it's important to your business. I'm going to spend some time talking about your offer. Before you ever start generating leads, you need to make sure you have your avatar and you have your offer, or else your lead generation is going to fall flat. It's not going to be as impactful as it should be. So we're going to start there. And I'm going to talk about two of his main ideas, the core four and then lead getters. And I'm going to really use this as a backdrop of how I'm focusing in my business. So first thing I want to talk about, quite simply, what is lead generation, okay? Again, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. It's getting people to want to buy your stuff, right? That's all lead generation is. You have to get people to want to do business with you. Whatever your product, whatever your service is, whatever channel you're trying to connect with people, you have to get them to want to buy your product or service. It's as simple as that, okay? Whatever channel you're using to drive traffic, it's as simple as that. So this was something that was really important for me as I was thinking about my business. So the avatar is the specific person, right? The specific person that fits the need for your product or service. So I said I work with insurance agents. I have a very specific avatar that I'll talk about here in a minute. I think a lot of times we try to go too wide, especially as we're starting out in the business world. We try to be a service for everybody. You just simply can't be. You have to define who is your target customer, what is the market you're actually going after. And Alex will talk about this. You know, the more niche you can get, the better. You'd be surprised at how much opportunity is out there in a very small, specific avatar, but we think we're going to limit our business, and in actuality, you're hurting it. So your avatar is critical. So for me, I defined my avatar simply as an insurance agency or agent that has at least 3 salespeople. If you're going to spend money to train your team, especially at the price point that I'm charging every single month, you should probably have at least 3+ salespeople. Now, that's the minimum. I have some agents, I'm just talking with some folks, that'll have 3 offices, and they'll have upwards of 30 or 40 employees. But at a minimum, you probably need to have at least 3 salespeople. Okay, that is people that are on the acquisition side, and they're looking to increase their sales. So there are 19,000 State Farm agents. That's the world I came from. There are countless insurance agents across the country. I can work with all of them. That can be pretty daunting to figure out, how do I get in front of all these people? Who do I target? So I said, I'm focusing on State Farm for now, but State Farm agents that have 3+ salespeople that are looking to grow. There are agents that are 30 or 40 years into the business. They're not looking to grow. They're looking to maintain their customer base. They're not looking to actively grow. So investing in a sales training company would make sense. That would be a waste of my time to try to market to that avatar. And they are looking to do it in less time. Right? So we'll talk about that when we get to the offer. So my goal is to find these State Farm agents, and then I use Alex's core 4 to pursue them. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay. All right. So the core offer. So this was one of the first things I picked up from Alex's first book. It's called $100 Million Offers. It really helped me kind of define the way that I was going to market and what I was going to say to the insurance agents that I was trying to reach out to. So he has this thing called the value equation, okay? So the value equation is really how you create an offer and what your offer is to your avatar. And his saying is it should be so good it makes it hard for them to say no. That's every business person's dream, right? That it's hard for the avatar you're looking for to say no. So he talks about it in terms of this. So my wife wrote this for me because I write really small, so bear with me. So he talks about your dream outcome, okay? So what is the dream outcome of your avatar? What is the ideal scenario that they are looking for? What do they want ideally out of your product, okay? Second thing is the perceived likelihood of achievement. How likely it is that they're actually going to get their dream outcome. Are you actually going to be able to provide that to them? Is it realistic? I think we've all seen tons of marketing emails, tons of texts that claim these massive results, these massive things that you take a look at it in 2 seconds, you know there's no way you're going to be able to actually help me achieve that, right? So you just brush right by it. So that's how people look at offers. Is it going to help me get my dream outcome? And what is the likelihood I'm actually going to be able to achieve this? Okay? And this is where it gets fun, because this is where he says you need to get this to 0. So the TD is time delay. How quickly am I going to get my dream outcome? How fast are you going to get me to where I want to be? Okay? So he talks about that piece of it. Okay? And then the last, and I think one of the most important pieces, that's an E, by the way. Effort and sacrifice. Okay, he talks about effort and sacrifice. So you think about human beings in general. We want everything like that. As quick as you can get me to where I want to be. Okay, the health industry has been leaning on that for years and years and years in getting people, make sure I don't fall, right? So instead of doing the hard work, we're just gonna take a pill, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. That's what he talks about, effort and sacrifice. The goal is to get this to 0. So how can you deliver my dream outcome in the shortest amount of time, right, without me having to do anything? And that's what he talks about is what your offer should be. It makes it really hard to think through this. So I spent hours trying to think about, all right, I'm talking to business owners in a very specific market. How do I provide this offer to them? And multiple iterations, going back and forth. This is what I came up with. Okay, so my core offer, I work with agents and I tell them in my marketing, in my demonstration calls, I say, I want to help you increase your results in 30 days or less, okay, without having to train your team. So what's the dream outcome for every insurance agent? Better results, okay? What's the perceived likelihood of achievement? I'm not saying I'm going to increase your results by 10x. I just say I want to get better results. So you look at that and say, all right, my dream outcome is better results. You're not saying that this is a claim that's really unlikely for me to achieve. I'm interested. I say in less than 30 days. What's the time delay you're going to have to wait? 30 days or less, and your results are going to start to increase. And what's your effort and sacrifice? You spend money with me, I train your team for you. Okay? And so that's really the idea behind the Ignite Core offer. And so I had to think about that before I was ready to go out and actually start pursuing leads and how I was going to attack it. Okay? We're going to do Q&A at the end, or can I pause in it? Okay, cool. All right. So that's the core offer. So now we get into the core 4. How do you actually generate leads? And so this has been really interesting for me as I've been starting out again. And one of the things I like about Alex is he spends so much time writing his books and his content. It's about as easy as possible. There's a ton of pictures. You cannot understand what he's trying to get across to you. You could have a kindergartner read it and they could go run a business. It's awesome. So the core 4, it starts with warm outreach. So WO is warm outreach. So that is anybody that you have an existing relationship with, right? So depending on your business, it could be very small, it could be very, it could be very large. It just depends on what you're going into. So I had 14 years of experience in insurance. I have worked with hundreds and hundreds of agents or got to meet hundreds and hundreds of agents over the years. That was my warm outreach. So my initial focus the first few weeks I was in business was contacting every single person that I knew that fit my avatar. I knew, like I said, lots of agents, but I didn't talk to any of the agents that I worked with in the past that had less than 3 salespeople, okay, that were in a growth mindset, and that allowed me to be very specific, and it was very successful. I set 26 pre-launch appointments with my warm outreach to those agents in the leading up to it, and 23 of them said yes. So 23 out of 26 said yes in my pre-launch. That was huge for me. My goal in month 1 was 50. Day 1 I started, I was almost halfway to my goal. So that could be friends, that could be family, right? That could be fans. That's where a lot of people start. One of the things in the insurance business when you get started is they tell you to build your hot list, right? And depending on the company, the hot list means a couple of different things, but if it's a true hot list, it's the people that you can lean on that will listen to you because they care, right? That's all warm outreach is. Who do you have a relationship that will have an interest in listening to you about what you can do to help them? And so I had to lean on those relationships first. And so it starts with warm outreach, but that's only gonna last so long. That'll get you started, and that's gonna help you get to one of these other pieces that we'll talk about in terms of lead getters, but then it's cold outreach. So those are people that don't know you, right? So there's 19,000 State Farm agents. Again, I have spent a lot of time scraping the internet, finding email addresses and gathering data and building a list. And then we put together a marketing campaign. And so my wife helps me with this, but we're adding 100 new State Farm agents to our funnel every day. So one of the things that Alex talks about in his book is 100 cold outreach every single day. Whether it's text, whether it's email, whether it's direct messages, 100 every single day. And so I'm going on 5.5, 6 weeks now of every single day adding 100 new State Farm agents to my funnel. The other thing he talks about is if you're not gonna hit 100, it needs to be open to goal. So you need to have a goal of what the outcome is. My outcome of my cold outreach is to book a demo. And I know exactly how many demos I need to have every single week in order for me to hit my monthly target. So those are the two things that I track every single day, right? So am I hitting my demo goal, or am I getting to my 100 outreach? And we've been getting to our 100 outreach, and we've been really, really consistent in our demos. And so we will continue that strategy. The fun part is cold outreach is where you get to test how good you are at marketing. We're on our 3rd wave in 6 weeks. So it's awesome to see who's clicking on your email and opening it, right? And then when they click it or they open it, are they actually clicking on any of the links? So I've gone through multiple iterations, and I've done a ton of A/B split testing. We're going through our 3rd round right now to figure out what's gonna be the best strategy for me long term. And so I started out by just blasting these folks asking to book a demo. It was a very basic email campaign, 4 emails spread out over 30 days, had some good results. Immediately decided to shift gears, and I was gonna offer free training. That was one of the things that Alex talks about, is give away value for free. Lots of clicks, not as much response, okay? So I just switched it today. I've made a much cleaner marketing. I added the video that Sleekfire helped me create for a demo inside of the marketing. So before it was all a link. So today I said, I'm gonna switch this up, and I just dropped a picture of the demo with a link, because we're visual, hoping to increase that. So that's been really fun to manage, and that's how I'm going about it. So the cold outreach. That is basically anybody you don't know. You can multitudes of different ways to get a hold of these people, but your cold outreach. From there, he talks about free content. So free content is anything that you put on social media, anything that you put on YouTube, anything that you put out that is free. So that is one of the other offers that I'm making to everybody as well. As you can imagine, I'm sure we've all gotten them as we've marketed over the years. The response is, take me off your list, right? So I'm not gonna argue, said absolutely no problem, but the tagline at the bottom is, I wanna still help provide you value for free. If I can ever help you, just like and subscribe and check out my YouTube channel. And I'm constantly building out and adding content to that, so I have as much free content as I do inside of my platform. So no matter what, I can, again, add value to those folks. So trying to consistently be out there and creating free content, whether it's on social or whether it's on YouTube. The last thing he talks about, and I'm not there yet, thankfully, because it costs money, is paid ads. So obviously paid ads is then where you get very specific in terms of where you're going to attack in terms of trying to find leads. And so one of the things he talks about that I really like, and this will be my strategy when I get to that point, is picking a platform and starting there and going all in there first, okay? So a lot of folks make the mistake of, I'm gonna go all over and I'm gonna spend boatloads of money on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. I'm going to pay a bunch for pay-per-click advertising. And then they have no idea how to track it. They don't have no idea what's working, what's not working. And so he says, focus on one channel, figure out if that's working, and then duplicate and replicate into the other channels as you're building out your paid advertising. And so the thing that he talks about too that I'll put up here, again, it might be a little ugly, is this pretty clearly. People you know, right? Warm outreach and free content. People I know are following my social page, they're following my YouTube page. They may not know me as well if they're just a new subscriber, but these are people I know. These are people you don't know. This is one-to-one, and this is one-to-many. That's supposed to be an infinity sign. I'm not a very good drawer. So that's why I had my wife do this, okay? So that's the core four. So he says you need to focus on this until you scale to a point where you can't handle it anymore, right? And that's where I'm at. In the next 3 to 4 months, I hope to be where some of you probably are today, and that's where you can start to leverage lead getters, okay? So this is you telling people about your products or services. Lead getters are other people telling people about your products or services. And so this is where the greatest business, idea ever comes into play. It's called leverage. I only have so much time in the day, and so at some point, I'm going to need to start having people help me tell others about my company, okay? So the first place that you can start, customers. I'm getting a lot of this right now, okay? We all know referrals are the best type of lead in any business. Doesn't matter what you're doing, the referral is the best. So I have a referral campaign that I am talking to all of my customers about all of the time. And so one of the things that he talks about inside of the book is his cost of acquisition cost, right, for a customer. And so I built my referral program. He talks about 3 to 4 to 1. I'm at a 14 to 1 with my referral program, which is awesome for me. And so my agents, if they refer 3 people to me in a month, they get their entire next month for free. So for them, they get an entire month off their subscription, right? And I'm giving them a $400 value. In return, I'm getting 3 $2,400 contracts, right? But for my agents, my customers, that's huge for them. So they get $100 for their first one. They get $125 for the second. The third one's free. So I just call it the buy 3, get it free, or refer 3, get it free program. And so I had 3 last month. In the first month, I've already had 5 this month that I'm reaching out to and having demos with. So it's starting to gain traction. And so focusing on delivering enough value that they want to introduce me to other people. That's the thing about referrals. If your business isn't referable, nobody's going to send customers to you. So you have to make sure that you're providing enough value that it makes sense for them to introduce you to other people, right? I was getting ready to go on a walk before I came here, and I had a booking that hit right in that moment, and I was like, oh man. And it was a referral, right? It was one of the easiest conversations I ever had. That customer was bought in before because his best friend, another agent in another state, said, you have to talk to this guy. And so it was one of the best conversations I've had so far. He was like, I'm in. What do I need to do to sign up? And so I'm focusing heavily on how do I generate more of this, okay? So then he'll talk about affiliates, right? So affiliates are business partnerships that you have with other companies. They tell others about your product. And this can take a lot of different fashions. I don't have enough time to go into that today. It looks like I only have a couple minutes. So I'm going to wrap this up. But an affiliate relationship that I have. So one of my really good friends, he is a State Farm agent. I am giving him his training for free, and I have an exclusive offer for his customers. So outside of his insurance agency, he has a recruiting company that has 1,700 agents that partner with him. I now have his recruiters talking about my company and my exclusive offer every single day. And so I'm, again, giving him a $400 value every single month, but he's giving me in return recruiters talking about my platform. And I give them $100 off their enrollment fee if they decide to enroll with my company. And so that's one of the ways I'm leveraging an affiliate partnership. And so finding a horizontal business in the same area as you that you can work with to trade services back and forth, okay? Hopefully, my wife would tell you I'll be here soon, where I can hire an employee so she doesn't have to keep helping. Then you get employees, right? And you hire other people. So sales, admin, those types of folks. So that is where I will be focusing a lot of my time and attention next, is who am I going to hire first? What is my strategy going to look like in hiring? I can tell you the first person I'm going to hire is an executive assistant, and then I'm going to hire a salesperson so that they can do the cold outreach. They can do, right, that follow-up that I've built, because at this point in 3 months, all of those agents that I've been adding every single day are going to come back up for the next role in the campaign, and I'm not going to want to send 500 emails a day, right? So that'll be somebody else's job by then. And the last piece, and I'll wrap up, is agencies. And so finding a partner to help you in the paid advertising space, like Ethan and his new company, and finding a company to partner with that has the same core values, the same beliefs as you, that can help you scale and grow into that space. I could figure it out. It's going to take me a lot longer than hiring somebody that has the expertise that I trust is going to have my best interest at heart to make sure that I am getting in front of the relevant customers that I need to. And so that is the core 4 and lead getters. Right on time. Look at that. So, cool. Thank you.
All right, so relationship marketing, it's something I'm really excited about because it is about the only reason that our web development agency has both survived and thrived. I've tried all kinds of ways to grow it over the years, you know, pay-per-click, cold outreach, and a lot of those techniques work for some businesses. For ours, it's such a high trust type sale that it's very hard to come in cold on. We've had some times where that's worked, but in general, it's all about relationships. So tonight I'm giving just a very high level overview on relationship marketing. Also, you might call this word of mouth marketing. I'll get into the difference in a minute. But I'm hoping to just kind of paint a picture of what it is and maybe get you thinking about it for your own businesses and the importance of it. Because in a way, most businesses are relationship marketing businesses if you're selling to people, which most are. Even if you're in a more product-oriented business, like even Amazon or selling coffee, these also are people buying from people. So relationship is hugely important. So tonight I'm going to give a pretty quick overview of word-of-mouth marketing and relationship marketing. I'll tell you a little bit about my backstory so you can get some of the context, tell a couple stories about how we've found some really fun success with this approach. And then hopefully if we have time, some practical kind of in the trenches tips. So we'll be flying fast here. All right, so first of all, let me give a definition of relationship marketing. I'm going to try and read this slow here. Relationship marketing is a strategy that focuses on building and maintaining long-term positive relationships with customers in order to encourage repeat business and customer loyalty. Sounds pretty straightforward, right? And then I actually had to look it up because when Ethan and I were chatting about what would this be, I kept confusing word of mouth and kind of relationship marketing. They are technically different. Here, let me give you a definition of the difference. Word of mouth marketing is more focused on the viral spread of positive experiences through customer recommendations. Relationship marketing centers on building and maintaining strong ongoing connections with individual customers. So really, relationship marketing is kind of like what comes first. And then word of mouth marketing, a lot of it is activities you do that actually encourage people to refer you and to share that they love you and that they're raving fans and all that. Okay, so basically it's a way that you can grow a business, but unlike some of the other techniques you might see on YouTube and such, I do think that the downside of this is it does take time. This is not a quick thing. I've been doing web development now for 14 years, and I feel like it's only in the last 3 years that we've really caught our stride. So if you're looking for a quick, overnight success kind of thing, there's much better approaches. But no matter your business, probably this is a good thing to keep in mind. All right, so very quick on my journey. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. My dad is what you would call a serial entrepreneur. He started a bunch of different businesses and being part of the family, I got kind of drug along whether I wanted to or not. And I was born in East Lansing, but when I was maybe 4 or 5, we moved to the hospitality capital of the U.S., which is what city? Orlando, I heard it. Yep. So I grew up in Orlando, which, Disney World, Universal Studios, all that. And my dad had bought, with a business partner, a RV park, essentially, a campground. And they turned it into a resort that had cottages. So if you were visiting Disney, it was like 13 miles away. You could bring your family and you could stay. And in that type of business, relationships and being referred and ongoing business is huge. So it was really fun to grow up in that environment. As an aside, I'm trying to figure out how I can get my own kids similar experiences, working in business, because this is such a help growing up. But one of the things that I learned was this, I guess I'd call it the concept of, it's the power of customers having bad experiences, which it's kind of jarring, right? Customers having bad experiences. Why would that be a good thing? Well, the research shows that if a customer has a bad experience and you solve it in a timely way, the relationship is way better than if they hadn't had that bad experience. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So what they did is they trained their employees with this acronym, LEAST, L-E-A-S-T. And this stands for listen, empathize, apologize, solve, and thank. And that is actually a pretty powerful principle to build your relationship marketing. So if you in your own businesses ever encounter a problem, think of it as an opportunity to build relationship with that customer that you might not have had a chance to build that rapport otherwise. So again, it's least. Listen, so you listen to what the issue is. You empathize, you kind of repeat some of it back to them. Apologize, and then you solve and you thank. So what they did was actually they gave their employees pretty wide berth to solve whatever the issue was, giving a partial refund, full refund, whatever. And they wanted their employees to, first of all, think, I am doing this on behalf of the customer. I'm their agent. They didn't want the employees to be obsessed over what are the owners going to think about this situation. They wanted them to have a very customer-centric approach. So they would give them pretty complete authority to solve most any problem. And that worked amazingly. So they would have people that would come to vacation, they'd have a problem like, fire ants on the campsite or, something that was, misunderstanding with housekeeping or whatever. And if it was solved, they'd become raving fans, and then they'd repeat business year after year. So that's just a small example of power of relationship marketing. So after Orlando and the hospitality, we ended up moving to North Carolina, and we had a furniture store. And I don't have time, but there's tons of examples of in a furniture store when people are buying from you for furniture and you're delivering it. Relationship is also extremely important there. So we learned lots of hard lessons there as well, lots of good lessons. So then after that, I went to Grove City College specifically to study entrepreneurship. And that's kind of where my network began. And when we talk relationship marketing, a lot of it has to do with network, who you know. It's a people thing. So let me switch pages here. So a lot of the early clients I had came from people I met at my college, at professors, fellow students, people I met and did work with there. So one fun story is I had a professor there named Tim Sweet. At the time, he was only teaching a night class. Now he's director of the department. Amazing guy. Highly recommend that department if you're looking into entrepreneurship, kids or anyone. And he connected me to a branding agency, and I did some work for them for a little bit. And then after a year or so, I'm out of college. At this branding agency, we had a potential for a really big project. And I met another gal that was part of another agency. I'm getting there. And she we didn't end up doing the project together, but she remembered that we specialize in WordPress. That's the platform we build on. And a few months later, she called me out of the blue, and they had just launched a website, and they were having some big issue with it, and her team wasn't available. So we just it was like 10 o'clock at night. We helped her solve this problem. She was so grateful. So second principle I'd like to bring up is, I think Zach actually mentioned this too, is you give value. You don't try and make everything equal and fair. Be generous with your time. So a few months went by, and she emailed me, and she said, hey, I have a cool project for you. There's this science company that wants to start a blog. And this is, 10, 12 years ago. Blogs were kind of relatively early. And so I was like, hey, that sounds great. I think it was still my first year of, maybe second year of business. My first year, I think I made $13,000. This is great. She connected me, and we came to find out this little science company was Thermo Fisher Scientific, which, if you know, it's a multi-billion-dollar, they're Fortune 500. So it was this crazy chain of relationships that ended with her trusting to refer us to them. So we ended up doing work for them. They're still a client to this day. We're a little bit more qualified now. At the time, though, we were hitting way above our weight grade. So that was really fun. Second story I'll tell real quick here. My business partner, before he joined me, was doing support for a WordPress company. And he met a guy there that could vouch for him, and he knew he'd do really good work. That guy had some friend who had a mutual friend, and they got passed down the chain that they were looking for someone to do web work. And so they connected us, and we did some work with this gal. And then a few years go by, and she connected us to a video company named Vimeo. So, we have all these clients that I can probably map out 9 or 10 hops where just being, faithful and doing good work for certain people, it kind of, paid dividends down the road. So it is definitely a long-term approach. 14 years is a long time, but we're seeing the fruits of it. And last story, which is kind of one that feels like it's a representative of our modern era. One of our clients does kind of electronic health record software. And a few years ago, we rebuilt their site. It was the second time, so they trusted us to do it again. And they had their VP of marketing loved the project. It went great. We made him look good. Well, he left to a different company. This was a year ago. And then when he got to that new company, a month later, he called me and said, hey, we need you to build the site. So we're like, okay, we can do that. And then I think another 8 months went by. He moved companies again. I got another call. Blake, we need you again. So meanwhile, we still do work for all these companies, but it's just kind of a weird phenomenon where now we're seeing people that shift jobs oftentimes because we still have a relationship with them as an individual. They remember us, and as they move around and hop jobs, they bring us along, which is pretty fun, and it's kind of weird. Especially this guy's an anomaly. 3 jobs in 2.5 years. It's kind of funny. Awesome. So very quickly then, getting into the how. I kind of divide it into 2 parts. One would be kind of organic; it just happens, and the other would be encouragement. You have to do stuff to make it work. So first on the organic side, if you provide value for people, this kind of thing happens organically. When thinking about this presentation, I had 2.5 seconds where I was going to consider this idea of, I just say, relationship marketing is providing value. Drop the mic. But I knew Ethan wouldn't invite me back if I did that. So, but really, a lot of it does boil down to providing value. So that'd be a whole nother conversation: is how do you provide value to people and actually do good work? But basically, the parts that I think are relevant, besides just doing good work for people, which is a given, everyone should do that, is loyalty, honesty, that, as you're working with people, you're thinking about how would you like to be treated, and that goes a long way. It's nice in this environment that the bar has been set low for so many businesses, where if you just do good work and are honest with people, they remember that. So a lot of relationship marketing just comes down to it happens organically if you're treating people right. Just a small kind of in the trenches thing. I always recommend, if you've had enough of a relationship with someone that they know you, you know them, connect with them on LinkedIn. That sometimes it takes several years for that to bear fruit, but I've had people reach out to me years after connecting, and they remembered some little thing, and we end up doing business together. So I would encourage you, if you're meeting people, networking, connect on LinkedIn. That helps keep those ties going. I think Zach actually mentioned this too, which was awesome. Give away your time. I mean, within reason, right? But I have people that call me for, just advice or, hey, what do you think about this? All the time. Most of them aren't good fits for our business, but I'm happy to give them pointers and kind of talk to them and tell them who they might want to talk to. So I'd say a real key differentiator, if you want to build this whole relationship marketing kind of channel, if you will, is to just be very generous with your time. Give it away. And I mentioned this earlier, also don't seek fairness and equality with all your interactions. Seek to be generous. Seek to give away more than you can, not even just your time. Sometimes we'll do projects at a discounted cost or for free, particularly nonprofits. And people remember that, and sometimes that kind of has an effect of snowballing and turning into other things. So on the encouragement side, which this gets into more the word-of-mouth marketing, you can ask people directly for recommendations and to be connected to other people. Sometimes when business has been slow, we've reached out to clients and said, hey, you liked our work, would you refer us to someone else, anyone you know that could use our services? And more often than not, if we reach out to 10 people, we'll get at least 2 or 3 that will come back and say, yeah, hey, why don't you check out this? Another in the trenches thing is, we've tried this for a while ago, is have a regular client email list. So we found when we had a list of our 100, 200 clients, and we'd send out a monthly email, it would be amazing how things would jump to mind with them, and they'd be like, oh, we needed this from you, or how about this? So that's another little quick tip. And then let's see here. You can also offer referrals and kickback incentives to people, but that can be a little bit difficult, and that kind of goes outside of the relationship part. That can kind of sour it, but that can be done correctly. And that's about all I'll say about the in the trenches. Next steps, if you're wanting to pursue this further, I would highly recommend a very awkwardly named book by Patrick Lencioni called Getting Naked. Fantastic business book. Anyone in here read it? Nope? Okay. Awesome. It's about vulnerability with your clients. Now you get the title. That's a good one. Customers for Life is a good one. Raving Fans and Customer Comes Second. So to sum up, don't discount relationship marketing and the value of long, slow, steady plotting with relationships. Some businesses, it's a fantastic way to run it, and we are a testament to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ethan, very much. I've got a few notes I may look to. You'll see my title here tonight. The rest of it's going to be the analog drip. I am no digital person, but I really appreciate Ethan. That's the only joke that was there. That was all I meant by it. I am way back when you didn't understand these digital things, but I appreciate Ethan. A couple of applications. I appreciated what both of you guys had to say. Zach, I'm going to use the value equation. We have people come to a 2-day event, and a few years ago, I never would have believed that they would attend a 2-day event. But when you elevate the value high enough, then the 2-day divider becomes a lesser and lesser piece, and the value increases to them. So that was really a good way for me to explain that to my team. So I'm going to use that. And Blake, I thought about a time when, where are you, Blake? There, you're right here. One of my largest clients today used to live in Ohio, and I did a mortgage for them. It was before fax machine. They were fax machines, but you couldn't use them to get a deal closed. You had to bring original documents or certified original documents. Well, they're closing in Columbus, Ohio, and I screwed it up. And they needed to close that day. The moving trucks in the driveway, the whole 9 yards, right? Well, I drove to Columbus that morning and delivered the document, and they closed. And it is by far a better relationship than I ever could have had with that family. So these things work, and I'm using both of your concepts and more in my business. So I'm an investment advisor. My family owns a coffee shop. I'm also a real person. I'm a husband. I have a little bit of work to do in my relationship with my wife tonight based on the argument we got into this morning. Everything's going to be fine. No one worry. But that happens. I'm trying to figure out college for all my kids. That's why the coffee shop. We call it Taste Coffee, but I call it Taste Coffee and College Company because it's going to help pay for that. In 2000, I was invested in the stock market, and I lost 70% of my money in the tech crash. So I'm 27 or 28 years old. I've got 3 kids at the time. I lose 70% of our retirement funds, and I have no idea why. And I'm in financial services. I'm in the mortgage business. I've got no answers, right? So I go looking around. I start interviewing financial advisors. I interviewed 75 financial advisors in 2 years. The last one I interviewed introduced me to this way of investing, and Cornerstone Wealth Partners came out of that in 2008. So I make mistakes. I make probably more mistakes than I have great ideas or I do things well. In 2008, the same year I started an investment firm, which you could say was a bad time to start an investment firm, although I think, Blake, you would know this, Tim, maybe 70% of families were looking for a new advisor in 2008, so it actually turned out to be a good time. It didn't feel like it every day. But I found myself in the mortgage business, had purchased a bunch of real estate. I was a little bit too far extended, so here I am, a financial advisor. I almost lost my mortgage business. I was behind on my own mortgage for a little while and had to get myself out of that. Thus, Taste Coffee Company, because the college funds went by the wayside at that point. So what I'm saying all of this to you for is to say, I think one of you also mentioned, be vulnerable. I think this is the get naked time. I'm going to leave my sweater on, but our clients do, there's a background of relatedness that I think is super important as we build relationships. And this veneer that I used to put on, I tell my kids this all the time, I used to hide behind a veneer, behind a good marketing plan. Someone told me when I was just in business, their perception is their reality. So their perception of me is their reality. And I worked that, but I never had deep relationships with people until I started to just crack that veneer and say who I really am. They have problems, right? And if I want to help solve their problems, they got to know they're talking to someone who isn't, a suit or someone they can't relate to. So that's just by way of real introduction. I appreciate introductions. I have an accounting degree. I went to college. I take showers every day. I mean, all these good things that people ought to do. But there's real stuff back there. And in right ways, I won't tell you all my problems and mistakes, right? Not in this context, but in good context, not too much information. Share who you really are. And I think that helps. That'll help even our conversation here in the next few minutes. So if you flip to the second slide in our analog PowerPoint presentation, you come to the question that I'd hope to add something to. And I appreciate Blake and Zach because I think they also were answering this question. If you look at this question, how and why will your clients or your customers choose to work with you for reasons that are deeply important to them, right? How and why will they do that? That's really what we want to figure out. And the concept, if you go to the bottom of that page, that I've been learning, and I'm excited always to learn new things. And I appreciated and loved my learning about enrollment because it made sense to me. It was kind of already what I was doing. I sometimes use this analogy. Who listens to Dave Ramsey sometimes, right? Dave Ramsey isn't always, you learn new stuff, but it's not always that you learn something new from Dave Ramsey, but you hear something that makes sense, that you kind of already knew, but he crystallized it, right? Well, that was enrollment for me. And enrollment has a few different components to it, and we're just going to go through each one of those, and I may have a story to go with one or two of these, and then in the Q&A time I can answer more. If we get to it, at the bottom, the two bonus concepts are sharing in groups and the bridge conversation, which if we don't get to it, I'm glad to talk with you about later. So what is enrollment? There's a definition on your next page. Enrollment is the process or the skill of moving, touching, and or inspiring another person about a possibility for the future that it didn't previously exist for them, but would be meaningful for them. Okay, so you can do that. I can do that. And that's enrollment. If someone would be, after a conversation with me, or after a period of conversations, or a number of conversations with me, if they would think about the future differently as a result of that, something they want, then if my product relates to that and can help them get that, then then you've enrolled them in your product, okay? And they are in your company for their reasons. Now, isn't that why we buy anything, right? If I rent an Airbnb in Florida, I'm not renting it so that the owner of that Airbnb can get rich and retire. I'm happy he does. I don't have anything against rich people. But I'm renting the Airbnb for my reasons, right? I want my family to get together. My wife and I, one of our purposes is a strong family, so we need experiences to do that. But this is my reason. So I'm enrolled in that. So enrollment has many parts. I'm just going to talk about three of them. The first one is context. The second is listening. And then the third is listed next, and that's intention. Okay, so context. This little phrase, context is decisive, is something that as soon as I heard it, I thought, okay, yeah, that's what we need to do. If my clients, or if anyone, and if you might have a business you're running, you might be starting a business, you could be a parent, you could be an uncle or an aunt that cares about your nephews or nieces, you could be a friend, right? Enrollment is something you can think about and employ. If another person had all of your experiences and all of your knowledge, and they saw the world the way you did, they'd probably make a lot of decisions just like you would, right? So our job is to help people understand how we see things and do that in conversation. We use this silly example to explain it. Let's say you sell condos on a beautiful island, okay? And no one knows about them yet. But you go to the island next door, and there are families that are sitting on their little island, and they're sipping drinks out of their armchairs, and they've got condos there. And you go to them with your little presentation, and you say, hey, can I tell you about my island? And you give a great presentation. We have armchairs. Our armchairs have headrests. We have people that bring you your drink. And we have a sunny island, and we have condos, right? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not getting out of my armchair to go buy a condo on an island. I've got a perfectly fine condo. Well, underneath that first island where the people are sitting and having their drinks and enjoying their time in their condos, there's a fault line that runs right underneath it. And I know this, and they don't, right? So I come to them and I say, hey, come over for coffee tomorrow morning to my rented condo, and I'm going to share with you a few things. Right here, you just show them the thing. Right here is the address of your condo. Right here, there's a fault line that runs underneath it. And back in 1980, there was a level 5 earthquake. Back in 1965, there was a level 4 earthquake. Back in 1948, there was a level 8 earthquake. And every time, some pretty bad stuff happens on the island. Not every time and not to every condo, but this is there. And we actually bring you drinks to your armchair on our island, and there's no fault lines running under our island. and the sun is always shining just like here, and do you want to come and check out our condos? Well, now, right, their context has been changed. So context is decisive. Makes a lot of sense. They see everything for what it is. They see the truth about the product that they own, and we helped them see that. And it's a silly example, right? What are the chances someone owns a condo on an island that has a fault line running underneath it? But you get the sense for what I'm talking about, the context being decisive. Well, how do you get context? You have to listen to them first. Listening isn't in your head. Someone asked me this before. Where does listening happen? If you and I are talking, and I'm talking to you, Blake, and you're talking to me, where is listening happening? People immediately think, well, in your head, you're listening, right? Your ears are here, it goes to your brain. But it's happening over here, is what I'm trying to see. It's not really, not scientifically or medically, but for me to be thinking about this, I'm listening to what's happening over here. All right? And I need to really pay attention. Every bit of information that you need to get someone to move and buy your product or work with you is in their head and not your head. Every last bit. Now that's a big claim, but everything you need to get them to move is inside of their head and not yours. And so listening becomes really, really important. Understanding who they are, being really curious about people. If you want to grow your business and get new clients, and you don't love people, work somewhere else, do something else, because people can see that, right? I think the sleazy guy is up fourth, right? When he gets in here, the sleazy sales guy, that doesn't work, right? Get curious about people. Learn to ask a lot of questions. Create a space where that can happen. We have an interview that we use early on in a conversation with a client. It's called the investor inventory. And the point of the interview is to help the client finally write down everything that they're anxious about, every problem they can think of, every gap that exists. We deal with money, so money gaps are easy to quantify. That's where I loved your equation, because if you give me 2 days, I can help you close a pretty large gap, at least on paper, and then we can close it in time. So that value equation was really good. But create a space where you can really listen and really understand what their problems are. You might find that you're not the customer or the customer service that they need. You're not the business that they need, and that'd be just fine, right? Because why are you there anyway? You care about people, right? You wanna help people. And if there's another business that could help them better, another niche product that could help them better, you should point them in that direction. And even that is an opportunity, right? To help another business, which would probably love to reciprocate. But listening, creating a space for listening, having listening be a part of your plan at 2 or 3 different key parts in your process. I'll say one more thing. This, I don't know if there's a pen here. Zach, did you have one? Awesome. I'm going to give the larger one. This whole thing I'm talking about isn't linear. There's a time for linear. When you get a client, right? As Dave Ramsey says, you kill something, you drag it home, right? You get a client, and you're going to put them in a process. Your team needs a linear process. Get the signed documents, get the thing, then move to the thing, and then make them a client. But building relationships and enrollment isn't linear. It looks a little bit more like this. It's that upward spiral. You're always enrolling your clients. You don't enroll a client and then you're done. You're always enrolling them, and you're enrolling them up a level. And the great thing about this is you can be not very good at this and then get better at it. And the better at it you get, the more enrolled your clients get. So it's not a linear process. You do it over and over again with a client, right? You jump back in. I've had situations where I go through a whole process of educating a client, and the client doesn't choose to use me, and I think about it later, and I think, you know what, I stepped over something. They said they had this issue, and I didn't deal with it, and I need to go back and deal with it. And so I'll call them and say, listen, we had this conversation, you decided not to work with us, but you had mentioned this thing, and I want to talk about that with you. Would you give me an opportunity to restart the conversation? You know, people are people. They're really nice. And you don't have to worry about it. You can just ask them for another chance. Could I have another shot at this? And most of the time, they'll give it to you. And you can start in and listen again and ask better questions. And you're always listening because people's problems change, right? You solve one problem, and then you have to get to the next one. And some problems don't come until you solve the first one. Then you get to the next one. But again, your business is there to help clients long term. So listening is the second part of enrollment. And then the last piece I'll talk about is intention. Intention is the essence of communication. Do you know what you're doing, right? When we invite someone for a 2-day event, we're not guessing and hoping they have a great experience, right? We're getting problems down. We're listening for their problems. We're listening to help them understand what they want. We're listening to help solve the problem ultimately later. And so when we go to the event, we have people sitting at the edge of their chair because they're not here to hear me speak. They're here to solve their problems. The intention of our listening, the intention of our communication is their solutions. And we have intentions for the event. We're looking for 3 things around money. When someone comes to our event, we want them to get 3 things. We want them to get freedom, fulfillment, and love. It's kind of weird, right? And return, yeah, we want them to get great returns. We want them to have more money. But I don't want anyone to have more money without freedom, fulfillment, and love. And if money just was left alone to itself, all it wants is more money. That's what money wants. You ask the richest people in the world, and you say, hey, how much more? They'll say, what did Rockefeller say? Just a little more. That's all he wanted. I don't know if they had a grand purpose over there. But money just wants more money. People want freedom around money. Money doesn't naturally give that. You got to work for that. People want fulfillment around money. They want to know that their money did what they wanted it to do. That doesn't just happen. People throw their money at things hoping it'll give them fulfillment. But they haven't started from a purpose. They haven't started. And we can listen for that, and we can help them find out what would fulfillment mean, right, to you. And then people want love in their family to grow. And strong families have love in abundance. And you know it in your family when there's love and when there's not. And money naturally can create the opposite of love unless we send our money out to do something that creates love. And so the intention that you have in business is really key. Why does your business exist, right? What is it? Get really clear about your brand. Our business exists for strong families. Families are the society's building block. And people say, that's not true anymore. Well, the problem is it is true. It's true whether families are strong or weak. The problem is societies get weak when families are weak because families are the building block of societies. It just is. So with weak families, you get a weak society. With strong families that are filled with love and are filled with abundance in the family, that are filled with enough to share, enough to go around for others. With that, in a community, and maybe St. John's still has this more than bigger cities, right? So this resonates, I think, with all of us at a level. Cornerstone exists for strong families. We want to strengthen families. And that's what we're about. And we deal with money. Your business, or whatever it is you're trying to sell, it threads through the lives of the clients that are your avatar. Families that want to create freedom, fulfillment, and love, which isn't every family, right? If families are willing to do that for their reasons and their own purpose, they become our avatar. They become our family. We can help with that. And that fulfills our purpose, because I think weak families is one of the big problems in society today, so I get revved up at the idea of doing something about that. And then we listen and we help people. And no one wants a weak family. Just no one's created the space to let them understand that they could have a stronger one. And I've not met one family that doesn't want a family stronger than the one they've got. And I've met some really great, successful, pretty amazing families. But they all have, the greater they are, the better they are, the more they want to try to conquer and achieve. And you can help them with that if you really listen. I think I'll end there. I had one more slide or two more slides. How are we doing time-wise? Do I have another few minutes? Yeah. I'll just leave that patience. I don't know if you guys get Seth Godin's emails. You're marketing people. You've heard of Seth Godin, right? Seth Godin, you can look him up and just get his daily emails. He's really brilliant. Today's email, or yesterday's email, was patience. It's worth the most when it's most difficult to find. Really good. And that's his whole blog post that day. So Seth Godin is not going to waste words on you. So if you want to get a really good marketing email every day, look up Seth Godin and sign up for his deal. Patience is really most important when it's the most difficult to find. In other words, the bigger the problem, the more of it you need. And create a space for it, for your relationships with your clients. Do this with your best clients. Do this with your prospects. Don't go to solve problems too soon. Einstein said, spend 90% of your time understanding the problem, right? And if that is their problem, they probably understand it even half as well as they should. You're going to have to work really hard to understand it as well as you need to. So you're going to have to help them understand their problem first and then get it out of them so that you can solve it. But I tell you, people will do business with the company that does the best job solving their problem. I'd give one plug to SleekFire. First question out of Ethan's mouth when he sat down and talked about digital marketing and video marketing. When he sat down, first question, you probably remember it because you probably asked it, and you said, what is your biggest business problem? If Ethan can't help fix that, he's probably not as interested. I mean, he could help me with some videos, but we connected video marketing to my biggest business problem. And that's me wanting his product for a reason that's deeply important to me. And and you listened and you asked the question. You said, I need 30 minutes of your time. We're going to create a space. You asked me that question. You asked me 10 follow-up questions. You helped me figure out what my problem was. And then you said, I think video could help. Here's how. Then it worked. And it's going to work because you're going to see some increased. I do iPhone videos with bad lighting, bad sound, and the guy who's holding the video's hand is going like this. So he's going to elevate my videos. If you sign up, you'll get to hear those. So thanks for letting me speak with you guys. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Evan. If I could have all three speakers up on the couch up here for a minute, we're going to move to Q&A. So if you have questions about anything that these three spoke about, or I would even say maybe if they're slightly outside of those topics, as long as it's marketing related, and they'll do their best to answer those. And when you guys get a question, if you could repeat it into the mic for the video, that would be great. So open the floor. Who has questions?
All right, the question was, when you're sending out emails, how do you not get your email lost, essentially in the shuffle of their inbox? All right. Ethan probably would be way better at answering this, but I will say subject line is everything, and it being, Zach, echo please and fill in. The subject line being magnetic and interesting, unusual, addressing something quickly, it lives or dies at the subject line is what I'd say. Zach?
Yeah, I think the shorter the better. And, I talked about my email campaign, aspects of my offer and what I'm trying to get across to them are verbatim in my email subject. So I'm trying to hit them with my offer in 10 words or less. And I try to personalize every email with a first name or, team painter. If I'm, emailing an agent, it says, Ignite Agency Training plus team painter. So it's personalized, it's short and it's concise, and it's trying to get across what my dream offer is.
I got a question for Evan. I assume when you're meeting with clients, a lot of this is happening like in a sit-down conversation. But to even get that
Yeah, so there's,
How long is that phone call?
yeah, as short as possible, because people have felt needs that they call about, right? So they call and say, hey, should I do a Roth or should I do a traditional IRA? I mean, that's one you get. Or should I do a Roth conversion, right? Take my Roth money and put it, or my IRA money and put it in my Roth. People have these financial planning level questions. And I'll say, great, that's perfect, great. What else? What other problems do you have? What I want to do is start the conversation and get it to the point where they recognize they've got more needs than that. There are deeper needs than that. And then I'll introduce a meeting, and I don't really care if they feel like they're coming here for felt needs or the deepest needs. I can take that conversation through the inventory or through curiosity and questions and through just being warm with them to get them to be comfortable to share deeper and bigger concerns, because the felt need is not normally the biggest need. They always have bigger questions below that. And you have to bridge them. The bridge conversation that I alluded to on the bottom there is a place where you want them over here in your office listening to you, right? But you've got to walk all the way across the bridge to where they are first and take them by the hand and bring them over. And you do that through questions. And they'll walk over with you once you've gotten to know them well enough. And it's a little bit of, tell me about your family. It's a little bit of these things, but a lot of it is just, getting skillful at asking good questions of people and being curious about them. And how did that go? Say more about that. Can you say that again? I didn't understand it. It's just things, and I'm not selling. I really want to understand them. And I just have become convinced that I'm not in their head. I don't know them. I really don't. If someone have an hour conversation with me, do you think they know you? They know what you decided to share, right? And I really want to get to know them, and so you just ask genuine questions. They'll let you walk all the way across the bridge, and then they'll walk all the way back with you, and then and if that a little bit on the phone that happens, but then in that initial meeting, they're ready for that conversation. Yeah.
I have a question, and it's something off the email thing, so maybe Zach, but how do you tactfully follow up on emails that you sent out to get leads without being annoying?
Yeah, that is a subtle art. And I would say the first thing is go into it knowing you're not going to please everybody. So it's been a while since I've sent out marketing emails, and I got my first, take me off your list. And I just realized I don't know them. They're having a bad day. They're not mad at my marketing email. There was nothing in my marketing email that was going to upset them. And so I think your natural response is, oh, I'm being too spammy. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of A/B testing. So my follow-up cadence will take each concept that I lay out in the first email, which is the longest of all of them, and then they get shorter and shorter and shorter. And so I'm really just trying to focus on, all right, what's the one thing I'm trying to get them to respond to or click on in this email so that they're not feeling, and I don't email them every day. So you'll have to figure out what that cadence is. I think right now, my initial setup, and it seemed to work well. I haven't gotten as many unsubscribes. It was probably a little too early on, but it was 2 days, right? Email, take 2 days off. Business days, 3 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month. So it's a 5, and it gets gradually shorter and shorter, and the ask gets smaller and smaller. So I talked about adding value. My last email is, hey, clearly either you're too busy or you're not interested. I still want to provide value for you for free. Here's a link to my YouTube channel. I'm not even asking them to book a demo anymore. Thank you for reading my email, whatever it may be, and then I will reach out to them in a few months. And so, that's been my approach, anyways. And don't over rotate when you do get those responses, because they're going to happen. Most people will just click unsubscribe for whatever reason. So yeah.
Can I add to that? My experience has been that when I do emails where I'm just asking them to attend my event, I get more unsubscribes for that. When I do an email that has a video or some teaching in it, that's for them. And maybe it relates to, everybody's looking at a 5% savings account right now, right? Should I just go into a 5% savings account? So I just taught about, should you do it or not? Here are people who should, here's people who probably shouldn't. And I just taught about it. And if you become known for someone who's educating, I look at Seth Godin's every time. Now his subject lines are killer. he knows how to do it. But I learn something every time. So if your emails are valuable to them, people will open them, and they won't unsubscribe because they don't want to miss out on what might next be valuable. And it's not always going to nail them right where it is, but if you're trying to give them something, it'll get looked at, and the unsubscribe numbers will go down.
Zach, I have a question for you, and then anyone else can jump in. But the first thing you mentioned in your presentation was warm outreach, and then it moved to cold outreach, right? So during the cold outreach, I often struggle knowing where to find the people to even reach out to. Like, it's easy in the warm outreach phase. You've got friends, you've got family, your mom will buy something, you know. But then the cold outreach, I sometimes struggle. So any tips for prospecting and generating lists of qualified people to reach out to?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different tools that you can use to do it. We have just, me and my wife, who's helping me a ton, we've just chosen to go the old school, we're going through Facebook, we're going through websites, and we're literally looking up State Farm agents, insurance agents. And so I can go on and I can find, if Ethan has an agency, I can find on his website how many people are on his team. And so we can discount them as not fitting my avatar. If they don't have at least 3 employees, we're not even going to bother sending them an email. And so the good news is you can get most of this information online. There are services, depending on the business you're in, that you can pay to scrape data, and they can get names, they can get emails, and then you can warm outreach that way. We've just chosen to go the grease route, and we're just rolling up our sleeves and filling out information on our own. And added them to the list and importing them that way. And so most of that data is out there. It just depends on how you want to get it. Yeah.
Other questions?
And once you get a contact info, I'm assuming you have the ability to get a phone number and an email. Would you start ever with just calling before emailing, or emailing before calling? Do you have and this is kind of for you, Evan. What would you do first?
You want to go first?
I most often call after emails. Did you get my email? Sometimes if it's a really high value client that I'm trying, like it's a business owner and I'm trying to get that business 401k or something like that, I'll send something like a good book, this 3 Laws of Performance book that I was working out of a little bit today. I'll send that to a business owner with my card in the page with a note that said, hey, and then I'll have it highlighted, the part that I want them to read in the book. So the book is a gift. There's a quote highlighted, so they don't have to look for anything. They get a 2-sentence quote from me with a business card in it. And it's a note that says, I'm going to call you Tuesday morning next week. Would love to sit down for coffee sometime if you have time. Most of the time, they're going to answer my phone call and give me at least time on the phone. And then I have an opportunity to try to, and they're going to say, hey, what do you do? But I'll usually send something and then follow up on that thing. And depending on the prospect value, maybe you send something more. With the email marketing, you can find out who's opening these and how much time they're spending on them. That's a pretty good call list, right? So if you and you don't have to say, hey, I noticed you spent 17 seconds on my, well, that's a little creepy, so don't do that. But you kind of know who these people are that are enjoying your marketing week after week. And so you just say, hey, my name is Evan, or your assistant, I'm calling for Nate. He's been sending you emails. Now we know they've been opening them. You might have found them helpful. Maybe I'd love to schedule 30 minutes with Nate. If that works, great. If not, you can call directly. I generally call upon value, try to do that.
Yeah, I base the cold outreach calls on open and did they click. So if they have not touched the email, I'm probably not going to reach out to that person. My funny story, my wife was going through the CRM platform we use. Yeah. Sorry. But she's like, this person opened this email 10 times. She's like, who opens an email 10 times? I'm like, I don't know. So I called him, right? And we booked a demo because I didn't tell him, like, why'd you open the email 10 times? There's clearly something in the email. Yeah, when she's a customer, I'm like, all right, I have to ask you. But, to his point, the data will tell you who you should reach out to. If you're interacting with each email I've sent you, there's something that's intriguing enough, right, that you've opened the last 3. You just haven't responded. You went to my YouTube channel, which I can see which links you click inside of my email. clearly there's something. And so I want to get in front of you and find out what that may be. And so that's usually how I will attack who I'm going to reach out to, is by interacting with the emails I'm sending. So it's not purely cold. If they haven't seen or read my email and I call, much less likely I'm going to get through. So, but I love the book idea. I used to tell my agents all the time to give away books as gifts. So, great idea.
All right, we have time for one more question, and I'm going to ask one and give you guys a second to think of a question. Blake, how did you come up with the name Lime Cuda for your company?
So it was Web 2.0. You have to keep that in context. We just wanted something represented aggressive and nimble, because that's how we saw ourselves as a company. So Barracuda, that name was taken by a tech company. We shortened it to CUDA. That domain was taken. So it was Web 2.0. It was very fashionable, just smush two words together, Facebook, you get the idea. So, yeah. So we picked a color and we went through a few, like teal and blue, and we settled on Lime Cuda. So that is the sophistication that we went through for choosing our name. It doesn't really mean much else.
That's great. What is Web 2.0?
We're past it by a decade now, I think so. Would it be social media, social networking? Yeah.
All right, any final question before we close things out? One more question. All right, I think we will call it then. Thanks so much. Let's give a big round of applause for the three speakers tonight. Appreciate you guys. Let's also give a big round of applause to Joe and Waypoint Coffee for making all of our drinks. Thank you, Joe. All right, the coffee bar is closed down, but you guys feel free to feel welcome to hang out a bit and network. And thanks for coming. Appreciate you guys.